Okay. Hey everyone, we're back. Good afternoon. It's a chill Sunday morning here. Uh, I'm Hamilton. I'm the lead developer on Loom. I'm here to bring us home on this little budgeting tool that I've been live coding. Uh, Starting off the stream. I guess it's not really a stream. I'm not really streaming this live, but starting off the video, shouting out another Odysseus mix. We're listening to Subnautica Chillwave. But yeah, so where we left off last time, um, we were able to create budget items. You can see them right here, right? So we can see whether it's an income or an expense. We can see the category name, and we can see what its value is. Um, so our last little piece of the pie then, I think is really just kind of zeroing in on this category display. And displaying basically whether the budget is on track or not. Is the amount coming in greater or equal to the amount you expect to go out? And I think we'll have a little. I like to see this. So personally, the way I budget is I almost never explicitly budget my whole income stream, kind of with the understanding that basically whatever is left over is then just going to be my savings, right? And then that allows you to kind of maybe like a fast follow to this would be some tool for tracking savings goals, right? Um, Although that would actually require pulling in banking information, which I'm not going to do as part of this video. So yeah, let's dig in. Um, I think the first place I want to start is I want to start with the display, right? Like um, this is the engineer in me. I can see all the information I need to see here, and of course I can always go in and directly, wow, edit the entity here. Um, but no, I want to. Yeah, so we need to display this. So for that, okay, so we're inside the budget item, so we don't need there. We actually probably need to be up at budget, right? So if we've got our query back, if we have our list collection, I don't think we actually need both of these. I'm also gonna. So these are ordered entities. Yeah, that's a refactor. Here, I'll just delete that. We don't need two of them. So, so instead of a budget item controls or a budget items, let's build a budget summary component. And in this case, we'll put in the items. We'll call that our lists collection. And let's see, this thing doesn't exist yet, so we'll have to make a new component. New file, budget summary dot svelte. Okay, so this one we're doing from scratch, which is always a little intimidating. Let's pull in the controls because these should be the simplest thing to work off of. I always like having code to work with, even if it doesn't necessarily align with what I want. It probably leads to a little more copy-paste errors like in the long run, but I struggle with blank page problems, and so it's much easier to have something to work with and hack away at it than it is to like try and envision the perfect item from the beginning. So yeah, so to start we want, this is actually called items. It's a single readable entity. That's not right. So actually probably what we want is something closer to the budget items. So we'll just start there, right? So it's not entities, it's items. We don't need the parent list since we're not going to be manipulating any of the data in here. It's strictly for rendering. So let's see. We don't need a list here either. What we actually need to be doing here is we're going to be doing some computation. So basically let's see. So we call it. I think we would call it our budget count, right? It's a number, and we'll initialize it at 0. Let's see, I think we want it to be reactive based on the component itself that's pulled in. And then we'll just put a little div on it. Here's our budget count, right? Used. Probably need that. Let's just make sure this renders properly. Nope, it's broken. Why is it broken? Oh, right. Now I need to actually import the dang thing. It does like a relative import instead of a local import. I know there's a way to do this, but vocab is that it's lib plugins budget. There we go. Great. So should load now. Cool. So here's our little budget summary. I kind of feel like having the same. Okay. Sorry, not to get distracted. So what I just did there. So normally Loom carries its own context-sensitive right-click, right? But by doing a shift and then a right-click, that allows you to override Loom's context and actually give you the browser context menu instead. Ostensibly, you're not really supposed to overwrite the browser's right-click functionality. I think as long as there is a easily commonly used overwrite, like if you use any of Google's products, they do the same thing. A lot of platforms do this. Like I think it's a pretty well understood convention in website, single page application, platform design. So anyway, I want to steal the styling on these. Not necessarily the alignments, but you know, a lot of this is coming from pretty deep in. I feel like it mostly has to do with, I guess it's not padding and it's not margin, so literally just line height. Yeah, well, that's part of it. to tab size. This is probably shit that's like real deep in the system. Border box sizing. The border box. It's just like one of those things where it's just like I don't know how to use this. This is, I guess if we just do this, maybe that works on it. This is always, I want to say it's like my least favorite part of software development, but I think it's not necessarily my favorite either. Just pixel pushing, you know. You get a width, a bit of height. Use font families. Position is relative, its display is flex. Width is 100. I mean, that's box sizing. Margin's good. Oh, how did we get that height? I guess I could go check the component, right? I bet it's like we define this div as being of a particular class. Because it's budget item that we're most concerned with. Yeah, so if the class is entity, let's try that, right? So this is like a very low level CSS definition, I think. Oh. No, I wonder that didn't do anything. I put the class styling on the wrong thing. Class entity. You know. I bet this is what it is that makes it look like that. Class entity, content, pros. Maybe not. Signature, maybe? Yeah, we've got some inline styling going on this div. Why? I have a signature class. Why not just... I'm gonna put that on the... spacing small. Off this. That's probably why it wasn't... Well, it should have been appearing, but maybe I wasn't down enough, low enough down on the... Anyway, so I bet if we just like put a little padding here. Style, we'll call this entity. Great. Good enough. Different font size for it too. Probably don't need the rest of this. This end. Perfect. See? Okay. So now that we've actually got it looking the way that we want, we've got this budget cut, right? So for item, or const item of items, we need to dereference it as a budget item, item as budget item. I think I then have to do like this. Then let's see if a budget item is income, we will add it to budget count, else we will subtract it. And it didn't work. Okay. Why is that? Gonna be issue with the front end. Items is not iterable. Okay. Interesting. That's okay, right? Because actually, that's because I passed it the wrong thing. I need ordered entities. There we go. No effect outside of the top level. This one's a real thinker, huh? I feel like you can very much see how weak my svelte is. I think we're allowed to do assignments as a byproduct of function calls. So if budget count is equals to items, then calculate items, else it's like 0, right? And then we just about this? On a number. Okay. Make sure it's at least initialized as a number in this context. Now it comes back as undefined. Just, I guess, different than not a number. In this case, budget count is undefined. Probably because we didn't actually return a value. Now it's not a number, which is interesting. I wonder if that's because budget item is not actually a budget item. Right. Object data is the budget item. I feel like this happened to us last time too. There we go. What about now? Now I need content. There it is. There it is. Okay, cool. So here you can see we started with 5,000, and then you subtract 1,000. There's 4,000. 800. So we're at 3,200. Or I guess let me do this the other way, right? So 75,000 minus 2,500. 3,500 plus 8. Yeah, 4,300. Okay. So yeah, we're definitely overspending here. So probably one of the best things that we could do is not spend $7,500 a month on candles. What if we only spent $500 a month on candles? Okay. So that did not do the thing that we needed it to do, which is dynamically reallocate this. So, maybe because we need to pass it items, like trigger the run. Budget items. Budget items. There you go. Maybe this will work. Let's make sure it still runs properly. And we have 2700 to work with, so let's bump it up by like 700, right? Cool. Still didn't do the thing we wanted it to do. Okay. I bet there's a way to turn this into an inline function. Let's try that. Budget number equals items dots. It's not even just necessarily for each, right? Maybe it's like map. Is map the one? No. Fill filter flat. No. Reduce. That's what I want. So then, for and basically it's logic that we want to be inside this reduction. Get rid of the calculate items call. We'll copy it, mostly just because I want to compare. I just want to be able to directly compare numbers. Negative version of it. Apparently I can't reduce an array into a different value. let me just assume a certain or try and assume a certain behavior, right? Which is I should probably just come through as object to object, but entity. Back this down. Which did change the item, but it didn't necessarily change the list, which is probably the actual problem here. Especially because the array is not actually a store. Which I think means that like what we actually need to be doing is there is a is probably running this calculation at like the top level where a change to the entity would be picked up. You'd almost need like a like, do you have to push a function down to the item level that can then be invoked? Self knows it's changed. This modifies a top level value into this display component. Man, I thought this was going to be easy. Yeah, so the key on some level is that we have to be able to gain variability over, like, we have to figure out where editing these entities results in a like svelte refresh, and I believe it's in here, right? cancel log statements anymore. Advance budget number equals 0 by default. And we'll create a function, const. Plus equal back, right? Necessarily have to be async. Yep. Great. We'll just sit down, function down. Sync post. So I know we do this in to do. Go through a little list function around. So, oh, and I guess we want this to be a probably a readable so that we know it's variable. I always forget, how do you make full entities? like value? I mean, we just make a new readable number? Yeah, because in the selected list, we already have these readable entities that are like already defined. Entity. Find the actual function. There's multiple types. Yeah, there. Already a readable entity though. We have like a dot set. And have we have our maps, right? Man. Yeah, it's like we create this entity. Like already inside the readable at this point, right? Yeah, here's where it is, right? That's a writable query state. Right. I guess it's getting pulled in as a TypeScript file instead of as a... It does. Interesting. Oh. What's the difference between a set and an update? Right. Budget number up in here. Budget. I could. I don't know. It's one of those things, right? Where it's not just that we need to be tracking this number, right? It's that we ultimately need to be tracking this list. And it is the tracking of the list that we need this whole collection, right? And almost less than the array of entities itself. We need the thing above that. So it's not actually the array readable entity that we need. It's the collection that we need. And then creating the list collection, like we get our ordered items, like we can just make that happen, right? So like totally barking up the wrong tree. So let's try the list. And put the list collection, and it is where's our list collection? Whatever it says here. So it's just an entity, right? So then we say, okay, here then is our ordered items. These are ordered items. Collection dot get dot how do we do that? Data ordered items. Oh, and actually, what if we pass them both, right? Maybe that's the secret. It's basically we want to listen for when the list collection changes. And the easiest thing we can do is just have a like touch list collection when an object itself gets modified. And like we've been doing the edits through like directly through the interface, which works okay, but it doesn't trickle back up. Basically because we can't have a arbitrary expression. Okay, well, I hate to get going, but we're gonna figure this out. I'm gonna leave myself a little to do. Mechanism for triggering list store update to then trigger budget summary rebuild. Okay, we are so back, baby. So, having a little time to think and some time to do some research. Oh god, I just burped into the mic. I'm so sorry. Here's what we've settled on, right? So, two things to keep in mind. One, Loom started in the Svelte 2 framework 5 years ago. We're up to Svelte 5. So there is a massive refactoring effort that probably needs to happen before there's really any more major development that occurs. And my understanding is that there's a element at the core of Loom's development. Specifically, it's like readable mutable, writable store system that is replaced by the runes of Spell 5. I have not even begun to consider how to break the seal on that, right? But that's not what you're here for, right? So basically, what was happening, right? So what was happening on this page, right, is so we're kind of the format that we've been doing, right, is we've been manually editing data underneath the hood, right? And so this is changing an entity, right? Our readable entity stores, and based on like the components we've been using for rendering, like the components obviously update, but we weren't getting this total sum to update, and this is because the total sum was not was this array of readable entities. So the readable entities inside the array, those were changing, right? The array itself, however, was not actually changing. So what we needed to do, the solution that I ended up lining up on, is basically we needed to trick the system into essentially saying like, hey, something changed, you need to redraw, essentially. So enter last updated. So last updated is not used. But we need it specifically to be in this assignment so that when it changes, it triggers this function to be rerun with the ordered entities. And while the array entity itself has not changed, the array object has not changed, the readable entities inside of it have changed. And so we will get a redraw because of that. So there's this last updated thing. So we add this. Back to budget. So in budget, we add this value, right? Budget last updated. So this gets passed to the last updated attribute inside budget summary. We have a little function here whose entire purpose is just to, it's just a dumb timestamp. Like, again, we're not actually using this value for anything. We just need to get it to be set to trigger a redraw, which I'm actually going to add that comment right now. So then what do we do? So we have this value. We have a function that changes the value. We pass the function. So then we pass the function down to the actual objects that manage the low level entities, right? So it's not budget items, but it's budget item, and right, we get this function, and this is the real howdy do, right? So we set up our reactive statement. We are just basically doing, again, a worthless computation in a certain sense, right? We're just checking to see if the entity object exists. And if it does, right, okay, great. It should. Otherwise, what are we doing here? But let's update our budget number, right? We call that function. Otherwise, we'll just execute date now. Again, doesn't do anything. There's no assignment here. We're just doing like a generally, it's functionally a no-op. However, it's not a no-op because we call this update budget number, and it gets called every time the entity changes, which means this function, you then bounce back up the chain, the function gets called, this updates budget last updated. Now this is a signal that then over in budget summary gets picked up on to trigger the calculate items execution, which recalculates the budget and updates, which updates the value of budget count, which means budget count then changes here. So, for example, if we were to say, let's say have a more reasonable expense of $200 on candles a month instead of $700, this should update to 2,000 or 3,000. I have my math backwards, but you get the idea, right? Likewise, if we then change our budget expenditure, since we have so much money left over, to $3,000, increase it by $3,000 a month on candles, it should go to 0. Boom. There we go. Cool. So let's finish our job, right?
Oh, my dog. What's out? Sorry, 1 second.
Okay. So, for that, I think we just want a really simple display. And what I want to do is basically we want, I think, so we'll div, so we'll do a little if budget count don't think I need that in the brackets actually, but so if budget count is less than 0, that's right. God, I almost feel stupid dealing with syntaxes. Okay, it's a slash. So if it's under, right? Let's see, we want the red X emoji. Nast. I like using emojis in my UI. I think they're very useful. They're very strong symbolic languages. They are pre-existing. They're portable. And so like this is gonna send like a pretty straightforward message, right? The red X means this is bad, and then you can sort of read this message to see what's left. And then for this else, right? I like the on target emoji for this one. Or maybe I'll just go with the green check mark, right? I feel like that's a nice counter to the red X, right? We're talking about clearly a very simple like binary on off here. Budget is balanced. And obviously, of course, I understand that this is very US centric here, but we don't have any internationalization in Loom, so there's not really anything else to do here. And so yeah. So presumably if we then check it out, cool, the budget is balanced. You will save $0 per month. Great. Perfect. So there we go. Clear out that console login here too. There it is. Otherwise though, let's see, and then if we increase our income by $1,000, the budget is balanced. You'll save $1,000 per month. Great. Wait, actually put that. I'm gonna change that dollars to the little symbol here. Great. And then if we check out increasing our expenses, it's also obviously a lot of, yep, your budget is out of line. You will lose $100 per month. Yeah. Let's see, what else do we need? We probably don't. I feel like it doesn't hurt to have these numbers. I don't, maybe you want to organize your categories alphabetically. I feel like I can probably chop this up. Let's see. Actually, here's a good question. What happens if I delete everything? Now your budget is balanced. You will save $0 per month. Which, actually, I'll do another nest, which is if ordered entities that length is greater than 0. Do this. Otherwise, great. Probably put a little icon over here too. Yeah. Yeah, and then I think basically these items I then want to just like subdivide. So like a single icon, again, that kind of binary icon, one tracks income, one tracks expenses, arrow. I don't know. Flying money for income. I don't know, green chart up for income, green chart down for expense. I feel like this is a good like income, right? Everything's coming in. Yeah. So what we actually want is budget item equals entity.data.content. Okay. Its item type is income. Item type equals income. And we return the money face emoji. Otherwise, we will return a different emoji. I think chart decreasing is a good one. So it's just icon. Actually, yeah, let's see if we can do a little bit more. Div icon, div here, budget item category, and then another div. That stuff. How does that look? Yep. Cool. Nothing's flexing though. Because I think what we want is flex display. Flex row. I don't know. So dumb. I mean, it's not dumb. It's just it's. It's not working because. Great, there we go. So whatever this is, content. Content needs to be flex to display flex. Flex direction row. think we want the category to take up. Like 50% of its container. Maybe like 70% of its container. Alright. Access. Yeah. Content. Display. Content. There's a content. Let's flex display. There we go. Align item center. Nope. That's not it. Oh, and then save. No. So that don't work. It's like text align. There we go. That's the magic one. And then, so your text line center. And then I feel like that should be, I guess this is what, value. Value. Text align right. I guess it's as big as the thing goes. That's 2. Take off the width. Cool. I like how that looks. Budget is balanced. Here's the inputs. You can move them around for whatever reason if you want to. Budget is balanced. Yeah. And I think that looks good enough for now, right? There's a budget. Or at least a budget item tool. Like, obviously this might be a tool that needs to grow in complexity. I would guess probably around the point that you start feeling like you should be adding tabs, you might just want to break it out into its own tool. but you can still use like the Loom backend. Um, yeah. Um, I don't know. I think there's a lot of work to be done on how the front end renders and what kind of styling components to include or not include. I mean, again, I'm a very, I don't know. I have engineer brain. I just want my tool to be functional. I don't necessarily need it to be pretty, but which maybe is just an excuse for not putting in the effort. But um, yeah, uh, I hope you learned something about building a view. I hope you will take an opportunity to explore making your own view. Uh, please leave comments, feedback about things that were helpful, things that weren't helpful. Also, definitely, if you're interested in developing, join the Loom developer community at. You can sign up for an account at getloom.org. Um, and yeah, or find us on our GitHub page. Um, yeah, happy to answer any questions. No guarantee I'll get back to anybody any soon, but I will try to stay on top of things. So yeah, thanks again to Odysseus for the Subnautica mix. I think this video is long enough that it may have even looped over. Yeah, and thank you for joining me on this journey. This is actually kind of exciting. The completion of this view will officially put us into early access mode. So I'm gonna start talking to people about this and showing people it. Yeah. So like I said, any feedback is appreciated. Until next time, bye.